you going?
Evening, folks.
Hey, man.
How we going,
How we
boys?
doing? All right.
Yeah, how are you guys?
That's good.
So, welcome back.
What's happening down in the swamp there, Baz?
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. Yeah. I won't go there, but yeah, I think we're in 3, aren't we? So, we're with you guys.
Okay,
We've joined you guys.
You've joined us.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're 2.99 now. 2.99. We're on the go.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
we KFC, McDonald's, and we can get there.
yeah. Fair enough.
Can still sell can still sell cars online.
All right. Well, yeah. As I say, don't quit your day job yet. And well, we haven't been axed yet. The Broadcasting Standards Authority haven't found us, and they haven't taken us offline. So we're here for another night, and we've got a few online. Ross has already checked in. Copy. It's online. So that's good. So we've got a bit of a full show here tonight, guys. And we'll see how we go. We might end up cutting it if it goes too long. We went well over the pit stop last time, and I think, geez, Baz, I think you didn't have to refuel. What's the opposite of refueling? But anyhow, we won't go there.
I had a splash and dash.
A splash. Oh, good evening, everybody. Good evening, Greg, Peter, and Greg Stokes. So we got the Greg and Gregs. We got a Ralph and a Stokes. So that's pretty good. Hey, look, to kick things off, if this all works, Baz, I'm going to let you take the lead on this because I think you the shirt sort of gives it away. Whoops, and I've got on cue. I get into the wrong photo.
Yeah.
Baz, what's going on here?
That's a beautiful car, isn't it? Is it? I believe 40 years today since Dick Johnson, John French won the Bathurst 1000, the James Hardy 1000, 40 years ago today. And shout out to Dickie and Jill and all the crew. They're still going hard. And yeah, what a brilliant moment that would have been.
Yeah, it certainly would have been a highlight and pretty exciting for them. And if I get over to the next photo, here we go. Here's a shot. Look at that.
Jeez, Dick had a good hairstyle back then, didn't he?
He sure did. Yeah,
looks like a basin had a fair bit to do with that.
So yeah, look, we just want to give a quick shout out to our friends across in the ditch. 40 years, boy, that's a. And I think I saw Dick's post on Facebook. He says it feels like yesterday. So, congratulations to the team. It was one of many, and hopefully in a few weeks we'll get another one. But yeah, Dino on the end there, isn't it, Baz? On the far
end.
It
is, Dino. It is. Yes.
Yeah. So
I can't. I mean, what a catch Jilly is, isn't she?
Settle down. I do.
But yeah.
If nobody's ever read Dick Johnson's latest book, you've got to read it because he just talks in there how he had the servo when he whipped her off the other fella. It's just the best little story. Anyhow, so we're we'll get that out of the way. We'll get the formalities of Dick's congratulatory cheer. So, cheers. Yeah, so we're getting in tonight.
Where's your wine, Bruce?
Yeah. Right on cue.
There you go, man.
All right, so chatting tonight, we're going to move. Well, we're going to go global on this one. I think it's got every corner of the world covered if we get time, and we'll get through it. But it starts off in America. And you say, why are we starting in America? Well, the Fox Body Mustang, good old American car, became the car of choice for Group A. And after the Group A Falcon, you ended up joining that. And I found this. This here is really diving through the archives. This is when you, I believe, first unloaded the car in New Zealand. Is it not, Dad?
Yeah, it sure is. This is the Donnie Smith car, and you can see that the label's still on it. But look, you've got to talk about the technical stuff here. You see that heap of tyres there on the right-hand side of the back of the car. Now, that heap of tyres has got more sweat and blood in it than the average road worker gets with a shovel. And I got to tell you that I was told by Donnie Smith that if I turned all these tyres inside out, I'd get the whole lot inside the cars. Well, he was right. But man, there's some sweat and blood to do that. You just have a go at it sometime. It's sort of one of those competitions that we should open up to everybody.
Yes,
But yeah, there's
I think
little
that's
Fox Body. Lovely little car.
So before it came to New Zealand, tell us a little bit about how you came about it. Like, obviously, what was it advertised and online? Well, it wouldn't have been online. I mean, how did you get to know that it was for sale?
Yeah, that was something I was thinking about today, and to be honest, I'm not totally sure myself. Then, if we wanted to go Group A, you had to go Mustang, obviously, because that was the only car that was homologated outside of New Zealand. And of course, we did have aspirations to get to Bathurst. And look, I'm sure that car was advertised. Don't ask me where. But yeah, so that was the intro. Head for Sydney, try and find Donnie Smith, New Truck Spares, and that was where it was all happening. So that was the destination, and that was the car.
So you're sneaking out a shot there a little bit, Dad. If you move to the right a little bit, the viewers at home will get to see you. So you headed off over to test drive the car.
Yeah, that's right. And of course, I'm sure they looked at me, and I didn't have a beard in those days. I can't look that suspicious, but they looked at me and thought, well, here's another Johnny come lately. He's here's to get a free drive of a Mustang. Well, that wasn't the case at all. We were serious, and anyway, we arranged to go to Oran Park. So that was the circuit of choice for these boys. It was only just down the road, and so Oran Park was where we headed, along with Donnie Smith. We had Bo Seaton, that's Glenn's dad, and we had young Glenn. Now, young Glenn, I say at that stage, I think he was probably only about 16 or 17.
Yeah.
Not absolutely sure, but somebody can check the records.
So I do know a little bit about the story,
so
but
I was told to just go.
well, you say Seaton was there because I believe this was pre him getting the Nissan factory drive.
Oh, look, I think we're well in front of that.
Yeah.
In
So
fact, I think Glenn hadn't done a lot of driving at that stage, and certainly well before the factory drive.
yeah,
I think more go-karts. I think it's a go-karter, wasn't he? As they all are.
So for me, this is a little bit from the Ford historians, and maybe others will know this, but I mean, it's a bit of a swinging, sliding doors kind of scenario. Glenn could have gone Group A in this very car with the connections with his with the team, and he ended up going the Nissan, and we know where that went. He ended up coming back into the Ford fold, but yeah, really interesting that you were right there at that part in his career where it could have swung. And I mean, had you not bought the car, maybe things might have been different, Dad.
Yeah, there's every chance that it could have been. The car had run at Bathurst in '84, and while it circulated reasonably respectfully, there hadn't been any development work, as I understand it, done on the car.
Yeah.
So Donnie Smith and Bo Seaton ran it at Bathurst, of course. And Don and Bo, of course, you look up the history of that, and you'll find that they ran Fords, Capris in particular, and did extremely well at Bathurst. Were class winners, I think, on most occasions. And so there was a lot of Ford pedigree there already.
So there you go, folks. The intro to the car. Bruce hikes it to Oran Park, gets to cut some laps around the short circuit, if I remember correctly. He didn't go up over the bridge. Made the deal, bought the car, and we'll talk about what else came other than those folded up tyres. We quickly saw it here with a box of spares. It looks pretty impressive, bell housing, and there's I won't mention that thing down there on the floor, Dad. We went through a few of those.
Well,
But
yeah,
anyhow, we won't.
I'm not too sure why we got one of those.
So anyhow, what do you do when you get a brand new car? You set sail and you go and test it, right? Now, I can't even remember as a kid being at this. Maybe it was during the week at school. And I don't think I could have handled seeing this happen to it. So it's brand new. And what do you do here?
Well, I don't take any credit for that at all. I've got to say that you know the thing that I was sitting on in the seat got a bit of a hiding at that stage. But look, I come up over the hill, Rothmans as it used to be called, at Pukekohe, and for some reason or other, this jolly thing wanted to run into the bank, and sure enough, it did. It had no control whatsoever. And of course, when we extracted it, there was some debate about whether the front strut had broken before I hit the bank or whether I'd broken it by hitting the bank. Anyway, we clearly established that that front strut had broken beforehand. And yeah, there's quite a story with that. I think young Dick should have taken some advice from me at that stage. I didn't have his experience, but certainly did with this particular thing.
Yeah, so again, for those at home following, I believe you reached out to him and says, hey, this may be a weak point.
I
Absolutely.
believe
I got on the phone.
Sorry, Bruce. I think that happened at one point. It did. One of the races, not sure. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
yeah, well,
the wheel,
as
the wheel
I
come
say,
off.
I got on the phone to Dick and said, Dick, look, you better check the front struts on that Mustang of yours. And of course, he sort of said, well, what I want to do that for? He said, they're brand new struts. I said, well, look, they're under designed, and I've just broken one. And he sort of, you know, took it with a grain of salt to some extent. Well, the very next meeting that he went to, obviously he didn't do any modifications, and lo and behold, he did exactly the same thing, broke a front strut.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. So we'll give you that one, Dad. We'll say that it wasn't the organic spacer behind the steering wheel that caused the car to run off.
Sorry, Andrew. Could you flick back to the picture where there's two people watching in the crowd there?
Two people watching in the crowd?
Yeah, those two. That might have been me and someone else. I don't know.
Oh.
No, that's not me.
Nah. I tell you what, Ross is online, and Ross has said, hey, look out for potatoes, because Pukekohe is a good potato farming place. So maybe he was out ploughing for some potatoes. But that's, I believe that's Keith Murray striding back with what looks like a helmet.
Oh, yes.
Hoppy, I think, is right at the front there. That would be Ken Hopper, I would think. The beard kind of gives it away. And I'm a bit of clutching at straws who's up on the bank. But
it was normally us, but it must have been it was a quiet day that day.
Yeah, if we crop the rest of it out, it just about looks like Pukekohe today. It hasn't changed much. Yeah. So sorry. Dickie trying to get he got a bit of advice from Bruce, and then Yep, I believe you're absolutely correct, Barry. One of the touring car rounds he went to shortly after this, he had a hub fall off as well, and those online can go and Google the video footage, and I'm pretty sure you'll find that Dick lost a hub. So that's
you picked a fine time to leave me, loose wheel.
Oh, come on, it's left wheel. Ones. You could have got it, Baz. You picked a fine time to leave me, left wheel. So anyhow, we haven't really given her a formal introduction, but this car here, folks, is known as Abe's Babe. You might have heard us talk about it quite a bit. And it came with a plaque on the dash. For some reason, we haven't uncovered why. It was an aluminium plaque engraved Abe's Babe. So it just became known as Abe's Babe. Had a canyon red interior, which you can see on the photo there. I know that because I'm a bit of a Fox body buff.
Yes.
And 33. So there she is, christened in New Zealand. But shortly after,
we got the Toby yellow onto it pretty damn quick, and got everything else sorted. Fortunately, it wasn't a hard hit. You know, a lot of that Pukekohe soil has already been mentioned, and so good quality bank that it ran into.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were lining up for Bathurst, and of course the thing was that we had now run out of any testing time or race time for that matter, and the main object was, of course, to get it across to Australia and to Bathurst in October.
So yeah, just working backwards from my archives. I mean, I'm thinking this is around the June and July, so it's come from Australia early in the year. That car did start the. Oh, Bruce is getting a bit pixelated there. Hopefully, that fixes itself. There we go. Um, the research is that it did a couple of rounds of the Australian Touring Car Championship at the start of the '85 season before it came over. And then, yeah, ended up going back shortly after, and we'll get to that. But you mentioned about, if I get up to my photos here, sorry folks, I'll just zoom out and then I can change. So, oh Jesus, look at that.
Jeez, nice shorts.
Oh, look at the safety boots. Jacko, what's going on? Anyhow, what I wanted to cover, as you mentioned it, Dad, that it was white, and you can see here she's repaired. It's still white underneath the bonnet and in the engine bay, so it obviously was given an exterior quick wake, a makeover. And here are these two strapping young lads. Whoops, sorry, folks. Let me go back to there, and I've lost my mouse. There we go. Just trying to get a full screen shot of this. So there's Ken Hopper and Wayne Jacko Anderson, who probably at the time was living next door. So he's literally come in his slippers, got out of bed, and come and had a look. Oh goodness! But yeah, so that's Abe's now in team colours, and Jacko with the the high quality oily can. And yeah, so you mentioned about testing. So you obviously was the aspiration as soon as the car purchased, was it to get to Australia? Was that the first race?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we intended to do one or two local races, and we would have if we hadn't had that accident. So, yeah, the program was compressed a little, and if you like, at this stage we weren't all that well prepared. I mean, we were so over the moon to even be able to head to Australia that some of the other stuff sort of got pushed aside.
Right.
Union Shipping played a big part in that, of course, and you see their logo on the headlights there. They were one of the great trans-Tasman shipping companies of the day.
Yeah, so we were exporting a lot of timber through Union Shipping, so there was a good little relationship formed there. And you mentioned about testing. Soon after, this here is taken in the pits at Bay Park, and a bit of a team photo shoot. Fortunately, folks, I haven't got it queued up because I'm conscious of time tonight. But if you Google Pinepac Racing on YouTube, you'll actually find a lot of footage that Dad took of Wayne, I think, cutting some test laps in this very car at Bay Park. And so there it is, team colours, and we mentioned the transporter in the background. It got pride of place in there, and was soon to struggling here, just finding my location. Look at these two young lads.
Couple of young buggers there, eh?
Yeah, sure
yeah,
is.
Yeah.
So yeah, team photo shoot, brand new car rebuilt, and yeah, look, check out those turbo traders that Wayne's wearing. I don't know about Dad's fireproof shoes, but the turbo traders on Jacko look pretty flash.
Yeah. He's probably still got those.
I've probably been out for a bit of a jog. You know, I was running a few half marathons and a marathon coming up not too far from then. And yeah, no, I think I'd probably just come in from a jog.
Of course you did. Exactly.
Talking it up.
It always amazes me the amount of cars you guys had, but you still had to run heaps of Ks as well.
Well, yeah, even I go there, someone might say they were running back to the pits.
Things that you got to do.
And a good cause every time, Bruce, to be fair, and Andrew, and yeah, you guys, you put it out there for the good causes.
Yeah, very good. So yeah, that's the team ready to go. The next stop is here, I think. Whoop, sorry, bear with me, folks. Here it is.
Ah,
Yeah.
So
Yeah, this is the grid lineup, and back in the day, of course, there was pretty big fields. I seem to recall that the field in '85, when we first went there, was something over 50 cars. So depending on how you qualified, you could have been down the back, round the corner, and yeah, so a great bunch of people. We had a lot of fun with this group.
Yeah, I reckon that you mentioned about the amount of cars. I think they were sort of starting in Penrith.
yeah, yeah,
yes.
Parramatta Road
maybe.
comes to mind.
Parramatta, yeah, it was like, yeah, that was so many cars there, and enjoyable because not a dull moment. Unlike,
No.
I won't say too much about today, but yeah, there's the different classes back then in that race.
It was a different
You know,
time
with
for
the
sure. Yeah. So,
yeah,
I mean, those who are watching at home, I'll quickly run off. We've got Ken Hopper here, Ken Penny, Vince Smith, Warren Midgley. I'm struggling. Then we got Murray Lonergan, Johnny Gilbert.
Man
We
from
mentioned about.
Darryl.
Pardon? Got Murray Lonergan. Then we got Johnny Gilbert, Big Cosmo in the hat. And I can't pick the guy in the background, unfortunately. And then the two on the left, we know who those critters are. So
oh yeah, I've seen them before.
yeah. So tell us. I'll add in for Jacko because he's not online with us. We need to get him hooked up with modern technology. But what was the first lap like round the mountain?
Well, I think for both Wayne and I, he can speak for himself at some stage, but I think for both of us, it was what the bloody hell are we doing here, and why would you want to try and race around a place like this? Um, the biggest unsettling thing, I think, for most Kiwis first time up there was the undulating terrain and the fact that the cars were coming off the ground at least 2 or 3 times around the track. Some of that was in a straight line, but if you went up through the cutting, that was probably the first time that your stomach hit the mouth, as it were. And yeah, there was quite a hump after you'd gone through the cutting and headed up to McPhillamy or over the top. And then, of course, going down through the dipper. Anybody that's experienced that knows what that's all about.
Going down.
TV doesn't do it justice. Going down, yeah.
Barry.
TV doesn't do it justice. Many people have said that, but you do it in a rental car at 40 or 50 Ks and you know you're going down there. So us silly beggars, we got thrown in the deep end and we just had to try and settle down. The hardest job back then, of course, was keeping yourself within the 105% qualifying, and that takes a bit of doing. The top teams are continually bolting on new rubber, and we were there with just the minimum amount of tyres to do what we thought was the whole race. So it's like a carrot in front of you the whole time, a bit like COVID. You know, they hang the carrot in front of you, and you get there, and then you find that you're behind the game again. So keep changing the numbers.
Yeah, and as you say, Bruce, it wasn't just a matter of turning up and driving in the race. It wasn't a certainty. You had to qualify. So, you know, the pressure was on from day one.
Yeah, absolutely. And the feelings didn't change really over the 2 or 3 days of running around the track. Of course, you become a little more settled. However, all of those feelings, your stomach still wants to be somewhere else, and you know, your head, your brain, or your eyes, you're telling you one thing, and that little orifice down the bottom that's trying to sit on the seat, it's telling you another. And yeah, it's a bit of a struggle.
Yeah. So
what about the? Oh, sorry, I just got to say that obviously you're in the 300k club, as you and Andrew are down Conrod Strait. But back in the with the Fox body, what were you pulling down there at that time?
I think if you go back to one of the yearbooks there, I think we were not doing too bad in a straight line. I think somewhere around 165 miles an hour, which wasn't too bad in the day. But of course, we were going straight through in those days, so there was a bit more time
Correct.
to gather a bit more speed as you headed under the bridge, and then thought about braking.
Yeah.
So I have to apologise to the viewers at home because this is going to be pretty hit and miss as I just bring this up and fast forward. If we just pause and we'll go back to here for a second while I queue up some videos. So yeah, 160. What's that in? We're talking about 260 k's.
Oh no, if a used car salesman talks about 420.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So
I think you're right. It's about 250, 260, and yeah, still quite a clip in a relatively stock sort of a car. I think probably a bit more streamlined than some of the cars that we've run there since, but yeah, still quite quick. And I can remember tailgating a couple of Commodores down Conrod, and there's really no thrill better than sitting on somebody's bumper at that sort of speed down Conrod, and then deciding who's got the bojangles to head into brakes. So yeah, a lot of fun.
And Andrew, before you switch on, I can just we're there in '86, and unfortunately Mike Bergman, and what Bruce is saying, that was flat out. There was no kink.
correct.
And Mike Bergman, unfortunately, he passed away that year, going over that hump.
Yes,
Things
he
didn't
did.
work out
Yes.
so well.
Yeah. So
And so that was a risk, big risk, and no aero, no nothing. So yeah.
mhm. Brave lads. So I did my mistake. I wanted to play this before we got there, and I haven't read my script. But if the audio behaves tonight, check this out, folks.
Build Centre team getting it right. Well known on New Zealand circuits, drivers Bruce and Wayne Anderson are to take on Australia's best in the James Hardy event at Bathurst. The Anderson brothers had a good team, both on the track and at the Anderson's Better Build Centres. Better deals on builders and handyman supplies at Anderson's Better Build Centres, Airport Road, Whenuapai and Highway 16, QU. Look out, Bathurst. The Anderson brothers are on.
So tell us the
brilliant.
background to that, Dad. Where did that come from?
Well, a good friend of mine who I went to school with joined the New Zealand Broadcasting Corporation, one Peter Gill. And Peter and I used to chat about all sorts of things, and he said it was about time that we did a TV ad. And I said, well, why would we want to do that? And he said, oh, well, there's a bit of a story. He said, we can include the cars, we can include your business, and I think it'll look pretty good. So that was how it got put together. And Peter was gracious enough to spend some time with us, tell us what to do, point us in the right direction, and that was the result.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, it actually played a couple of times on regional Auckland television, so it was a big gig.
Yeah, it was. And of course, back in the day, we didn't understand the media too much, but we reckoned yellow was always going to stand out, and and I think that's proved to be. I'm not sure whether those long pants there are Toby yellow or not. I think it might be just a shade off there. I think, Baz. What do you think?
I don't care what you think. They just need to be brought back. If they're a shade off or not, they're fashion. This is new fashion.
Yeah, so I think a shout out goes to Mum and Lynn. I think were responsible. Maybe Leonie had a part to play in that with tailoring those. Yeah, Okay, we'll put the vote out to the viewers to see whether they want to bring that back for a retro round, and we'll have to
Yellow
get
pants.
and-
Yeah,
stuck in.
yeah, I'm into those yellow pants.
So-
Interestingly enough, the tailor that actually sewed those together after we decided on how it was going to be styled, the tailor actually was based in Karangapi Road in Auckland, which is probably a good place to be back in the day. And his name, interesting enough, was Anderson. And while no family connection there, I mean, it probably was fortuitous that that was his surname.
Yeah.
So, there's a shout out to the Taylor and
Yes.
sorry, the Andersons, and yeah.
I know. Mum
Well,
made a lot. Sorry, Barry.
No, you carry on. Yeah,
I know Mum made a lot of the sweatshirts, and Lynn made a lot of the yellow jumpers that went to match. So, anybody wants a yellow jumper, I think I've got one in a box over there somewhere. Anyhow, moving on.
Oh, hang on, mate. Hang on.
Oh, hang on. What do you got there, Baz?
I think I got something here. Yeah,
Hang
look at
on.
this.
All right, we'll let you. Oh, look at that. Jeez. What year's that one?
I don't know what year it is.
Oh, cool. All right. So we'll move along. Now, I'm trying to keep a bit of, I've only got through one line of 20 lines of photos, but anyhow, these ones will come through pretty quickly. So we're at Bathurst, first race, Abe's Babe. She comes home after this. So, boy, it's travelled a lot in 1 year. It started in Aussie, came to New Zealand, come back, a couple of trips across the Tasman, and back in the day in the truck on a ship. So none of this air freighting cars around like the team did earlier in the day. So I'm just going to play a little bit of this clip again. And folks, this leads us into a bit more of a story.
Wayne Anderson will be driving the 32 car with, I think Bruce is still out with his broken collarbone.
What, did I hear that correctly? Broken collarbone. There's a story here, Dad.
Yeah, this wasn't. I mean, you just crossed the Bay Park there. I think I was missing at Pukekohe, and however, Bay Park. Yeah, I've been missing in a few places that year, and this is the subject of some family dispute. Never actually settled as to how this actually happened because there's no video of it. But I've got to tell you that there was a competition going on Christmas Day, and it was 2 wheels versus 3. Now I had at my disposal 50 cc's of high-powered motor scooter, commonly known as a nifty 50. Now Andrew had double that. He had 110 cc's of 3-wheel truck, and I think the competition was somewhat weighted in his favour. However, as you do, you get out there and try. And boy, was I trying. I was doing pretty well. I think there might have been a shower of rain. I've got a suspicion it was a shower of rain.
Now,
and so I leant into what we would call the top hairpin of the paddock. And there was absolutely no traction, folks. Absolutely no traction. And so I laid it down. Well, as you can with 50 cc's, you lay it down and you make every attempt not to hit the ground too hard. Well, there's a few things went wrong there. I think it was lack of practice, to be honest, And lo and behold, I have it on good authority that there was a truck very close to me at the time. And I have heard him say that I bloody near ran over him.
This is true. But, okay, we need to add a little bit more colour here. So, yes, it was at Christmas, 1985. Know it well. And, yes, there was a bit of dew on the ground. But what people at home need to appreciate is these Christmas functions, they start with a champagne breakfast and they go on from there. So there was a little bit of liquid encouragement going on, and he took a shortcut. That was his problem. I was getting the better of him and doing the full lap, and he took a shortcut. So I doubled back. I went, this ain't right. That's not cricket. And and doubling back, and he gave it the gas, laid it down, and next thing you know, I'm nearly mounting him with the trike as he's lying on the ground. But this story could go on a lot more. No, I didn't feed him a wheel, Ross. It was not a wheel at all. But yeah, then he's lying on the ground and everyone's saying, get up, you old bugger. And I think Mum went over and she kicked you, didn't she? She said, get up, you stupid bastard.
Oh, yeah.
No,
She
she
just
was... she just kicked him.
Yeah, she thought it was alcohol poisoning taking place, and of course there was no sympathy, absolutely no sympathy. So anyway, I was I was coiled up in a bit of a heap and said, no, this isn't going to get any better. I said, my shoulder's gone, and sure enough, here I am, and there is another twist to the story. Here I am with my best Tina Turner T-shirt on. This is a Christmas gift, and I'm not sure who gave it to me. Might have been one of the kids back in the day. But anyway, here's Tina Turner, and I love the girl. Tina Turner and I are on the ground together, and we're huddled up in this rather compromising position, and so there we are. Following on from that, I got to the hospital, and of course there's pretty busy on Christmas Day. All sorts of strange things happen. And anyway, after being there for half an hour or so, this nurse comes over to me and she said, "What the hell have you been up to, Bruce?" And I'm looking at her and thinking, well, by crockies, I know that face. Anyway, turns out to be a cousin of mine, Graham Midgley's wife. And so the net end result of that was she gets a pair of scissors out and she's going to cut Tina Turner apart. And I said, look, girl, you can't do that. It's a brand new T-shirt. She said, look, it's all covered in mud and it's got a hole in it. And I said, don't you touch that T-shirt. She said, I'll give you 5 minutes. If you can get out of that T-shirt without me using the scissors, she said, you can have your T-shirt back. Well, it's the hardest 5 minutes of my life. Anyway, to finish the story, yes, Tina's still in one piece. I don't think I've worn that T-shirt since, but I've still got it as part of the memorabilia. So just you watch out when you fall in love with a superstar like Tina.
Yeah. So we go to a B&H photo here, but we need to jump back a little and we'll go to the stills to help us out. So, we've moved from Bathurst, we've come home. Bruce is broken.
Still Tina Turner. I'm still lost to that.
Yeah, I mean, we can't afford to have a theme song, and if it is something like Simply the Best or in the Thunderdome or something like that, I'm trying to pull in.
We don't need another hero.
He wasn't a hero that day, that's for sure. Anyhow, look, it kind of goes back to the top of the show where we introduced the Fox body, and we'll jump in here. We need to get Jacko on the show. Part of the package was they didn't come singly. Bruce was out for a little while. In the background, we can see, well, literally in the background, this is the race shop, newly constructed. The Mustang, the XE still in existence in the shed. It's part of the family still. The new boys are in town, and that's the Fox bodies. So this here is Mark II. So this was Wayne's primary car. And we saw him earlier on in photo playing around with Abe's Babe. And if I get up to here is the larrikin himself working on his car, putting it together. It's, Baz, check that out. He's got some safety boots.
He must have lost his jandals.
Yeah. So we've got a collection of parts in there, and some of those look pretty familiar to me, especially these ones on the left-hand side, but I won't go there and spoil the surprise. So a second car dad joined the fray. So this one was a virgin build straight out of the workshop. Yeah,
well, we missed quite a bit of the background of all of this, and of course, all stemmed from Donnie Smith's workshop. And so when I bought the deal from Donnie over there, not only did I squeeze the tyres into the deal, but 2 more cars. And one of those was what we used to refer to as the black car. We do believe it was a jig car that Donnie had sourced out of the States. And by a jig car, I mean it was never a road car of any sort. It was just a bare body shell and lacked any finish or upholstery or anything like that on it. However, that's the way you start race cars, and it was probably fortuitous that's how it started its life. So from an empty shell, here we see it probably around about the 70 or 80% stage. And yeah, a very nice car as well. Was really the perfect twin sister to Abe's Babe. And yeah, was one of the early cars that we completed out of the Pinepac shop.
So the black car reference, just to go on record, I mean, I recalled it as having black interior. That's why it was the black car compared to the other car, which was red. But there is some comments that perhaps it was because it was undercoated black when the chassis arrived, and the chassis was black before you painted it.
Absolutely, that's correct,
Yeah.
Andrew. As I say, I don't recall it having any padding in it at all. And yeah, the black car reference was everything was black, the whole body shell, albeit an undercoat, as you say.
Yeah. So yeah, there she is there, and yeah, it became Wayne's primary car. But Baz, there seems to be a very tragic theme with newly acquired Mustangs in the team, and it hates me to do this, but I'm going to have to scroll it over to this one. This was its near debut meeting, was it not? Heading to Wellington, was it?
Yeah, we stopped off at Manfield. Was the normal way of just settling the car and the drivers down, and if we had a co-driver on board, of course that's the first time you introduced them. And unfortunately, the front A-arm broke, and the car rolled. Now we didn't have the capability to get it going again. We might have in later years had a crack at it, but it was pretty badly damaged. As you can see, the roof line is all out of shape, and that left-hand side, which is where the strut broke, it flipped on the infield of Manfield. So around the left-hander it splashed, and then into the right-hander, and of course it went straight ahead into the grass and the rough in those days, and over she went.
So you mentioned, sorry, Bruce, you mentioned earlier about the strut breaking. This is what you're referring to?
Yeah, it turned out it was a faulty weld, I've got to say. It didn't break for any other reason, and yeah, just not enough penetration on the weld, and it was enough to let us down.
So yeah, unfortunately, it didn't make the grid. Can you recall who was co-driving with Wayne that first year, who never made it to the meeting?
I think it may have been Struan Robertson.
Right. I know Struan got to drive later on,
recall.
so yeah. It we just did a bit of a historical roll call. But yeah, there's Wayne, just no name beside him. But interesting, Baz putting this together. It was going to debut as a second radiator pine Mustang.
Yeah.
So the same livery as
Actually,
the '85 Bathurst car.
I would have quite liked that left-hand guard in my bar. To be fair.
Yeah. So yeah, unfortunately, it came to an unfortunate end. We can see Abe's Babe in the background there, getting ready for one of the Wellington street races. So this would have been early '86, I believe. So moving on to some more images. Much happier times. This is both cars back in pristine looking condition. A bit of a livery change through '86, so the change from radiator pine to the company branded name with the Brisbane in there, Bruce. What's the Brisbane reference?
Well, back in the day, as you mentioned earlier, we used to export a lot of timber to Australia, and initially it was going to Sydney, and then we moved on to exporting up into Queensland, into Brisbane in particular, and we actually established our own company in Brisbane with a fellow Kiwi, and so we operated from there for some 8 or 9 years, I think it was. And so that was the Brisbane connection.
So we roll forward. This is the same day. The cars are prepped, changing livery slightly outside the Anderson Betterboard Centre. Those of you who noticed the circle on the cars, there it is there, that comes in from the trees on the background. And this was pre-86 Bathurst, so you're going back for another crack.
Yes, we were pretty determined that having only completed a small number of laps in '85 and had a blown head gasket, we decided, well, the way to do this properly was to have 2 cars over there, and in those days you were allowed to have a T car. So that was the proposal, and even further than that, we decided, well, because we were based in Brisbane with our own company, we'd base ourselves in Brisbane for a couple of months beforehand, and so that included doing the Surfers Paradise race, which was part of the Touring Car Championship in those days. So one of the last meetings, I think, or full-blown meetings, run at Surfers Paradise on the old circuit, and that's the 2 cars.
Yeah.
Is that the that was my first year at Bathurst. My brother Ian and a couple other mates. That was eye opener for us. But was it the previous round you're talking about? Was it when the John English run for Wayne when he had the runs?
Yeah, well, this brother of mine, he's conspicuous by his absence, of course, but he'll come good.
We love him.
Yeah, he's always in for the chance, if you like, and no exception. There was some lovely young ladies going around the pits on the Friday. And,
settle down.
they were in probably the shortest skirts you'd see in Surfers Paradise back then, and anybody that knows surfers, that's the place to be.
Yep.
But anyway, they were giving away these pizzas, and they were just about the right bite-sized pizza that you'd put away in a couple of mouthfuls. Wayne grabbed, he might have grabbed 3 or 4 of these things, and he duly munched into them, and he was enjoying himself. Well, that all sort of turned to custard, literally. And as you say, Baz, some of that custard started to come out towards the evening. But no, look, it was a serious case of food poisoning, and I can remember taking him off to the Brisbane hospital, or it would have been Surfers Hospital, I think, and getting him admitted to try and get rid of the stomach cramp that he had. It really was pretty horrific. And so that left us the next day, left us with no second driver, but yeah, we decided we needed a pilot.
So how did you just bump into John English and say, can you drive Scar?
Well, in the photo that you see there behind the 32 car, there's a fellow in a blue shirt. Now that's Ronnie Richards. Ronnie Richards had done quite a bit of work with Dick in the early days, and was a well-recognised engine man. And it was Ronnie that said, "Hey, this fellow John English, I think he could just hop right in the seat and do the job." So that was our first meeting with John. No lead up, no prep, but on the advice of Ronnie Richards, that's who we ended up with.
And we've heard from John. We're good mates with him on Facebook, Baz, and these photos pop up from time to time. and I wasn't able to quickly find the one of him driving on the front straight at Service Paradise, but he still talks fondly of having been given the opportunity, and we caught up with him at the workshop here in New Zealand when he came out recently, and still it was a really cool thing to have done, and he really enjoyed the car. So moving on,
a good peddler, looked after the car, and unfortunately both cars had some engine drama, but you expect those things, and but otherwise John was an enjoyable guy to have on board.
Yeah, well known in Australian motor racing circles. Now, so Bathurst 86, slight number change, and Barry, just like you, mate, I managed to pop my my Bathurst bubble, and there I am there, strapping young 14-year-old on the end on the left.
Look at you.
Look at me go. Got the pants.
You haven't changed a bit.
Yeah, look at that. Even got the matching shoes. Yeah. So there it is, 86, the team running left to right. You can pick a few new faces in there. Ken Hopper is just behind the back of the car. I forgot who that is. Warren and Barry Clark next to the Kiwi, and then rolling through. A few familiar faces on the other side. Ronnie Richards even got a team shirt there, a second to right. So back for some more, and this was pretty cool as a kid. I must say, when this show's it's going to go long. We're already nearing an hour. There's a real cool story. We talked about the outfits before, Baz, and Dad got me a ripper with this. So the pre-team, I didn't get to go the first year, and I was a little bit sad about that. I went and watched it at Auntie Sherry's in Te Atatu, and second year thought, I don't know, I won't get my hopes up. So Dad has a team meeting at the house, giving out everyone's packs and air flights and bits and pieces, and telling everyone what's their travel plans, and etc. etc. So the weeks leading up to this, I've been round at Auntie Lynn's, and she says, "Oh, Andrew, you're about the same size as Keith. Can you just try this jumper on?" And she's fitting me. Oh, yeah, okay, whatever. I'm a pin-up doll. I'm a mannequin. And she tailors me up. Anyhow, long story short, get there on the day, and Dad gave out all the team packs and bits and pieces, and then under the pool table, he pulls out this pack and goes, "Oh, there's one more here. I wonder whose this is." And it was mine. Wow, you'd never seen someone win Christmas. That was me.
Oh.
Mate, I was going. I was going to Aussie, and I was going with this car, and I was going to that track. So that was pretty cool. Yeah. So yeah, as a kid, this was our joint. This was our hangout pad.
Yep.
From memory, George Shepherd's pit garage, was it, Bruce?
No, I think it was Kevin Bartlett's.
That's right. Yes.
And so at that stage, the new pits had, I think, started to be built, or certainly there was better accommodation down there for the main teams, or main Australian teams anyway. But anyway, we managed to secure this. It was just it was a tin garage, like a Harman garage as we call it here, and it was a whole lot better than what we had the year before. Base to work from, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I bought a shirt from in 1984, Dick Johnson's XE Falcon shirt, but bought in '86, and George Shepherd, I think it was him selling them, and they wouldn't take a traveller's check because back in the day, like '86 green as, and we're using traveller's checks, and we can't take that. And I bumped into Jill. To be fair, she wouldn't have recognised me at that time. I was looking a lot younger then, but she said they shouldn't have been selling those shirts.
Really?
So that was awkward. Yeah.
Wow.
A, they wouldn't take a traveller's check, and B, I don't think Shepherd was supposed to be selling those shirts. So anyway, that was my little '86 moment in the pits.
So that was
we moved on.
That was the pit setup. Then get out on track. Here it is again, cruising around the dipper.
Oh yeah.
There's a pretty sort of iconic photo if you get around Bathurst to pluck up a wheel going down the
Yeah.
dipper.
When there's shadow on the bottom, with there's between light
Yeah,
and day, the shadow. Sorry, that's a good shot.
That's Dad in the car with his yellow helmet. I'm just trying to catch up because I'm conscious of where we're at. So now, if all plays correctly, we talked about the challenges of the meeting. So we'll just see if I can put this on, and bear with me, folks.
Did you say beer?
Yeah. Hang on.
No, mate.
Now, what's the shape of the car like after you've got back in? Has Greg look after it for you?
Oh, you better believe it, mate. She's brand new.
He's a good operator.
Yeah, he's a good operator. The water temperature's no different. The oil temperature's still the same.
We didn't get a chance to do any split times on him, but how competitive was he with your times?
Yeah, he was doing 23s and 24s. And boy, this is some oil here.
Yeah, what's the state of the circuit like?
Well, it was all right.
Well, one of your mates in a Ford Mustang, the Anderson brothers, have just spun off into the entrance to the pits.
Well,
and you'll be pleased to know that...
So we mentioned him at the top of the show, and there's Dickie there calling the action. And yeah, probably not what you wanted to get on national television with, but unfortunately, Mark II trip to Bathurst didn't end well.
No, it's still got coverage.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
take any coverage.
This was the classic oil filter problem. Wayne was in the car at the time, and through no fault of his, he's coming down Conrod and approaching the bridge, and anyway, this damn oil filter departed from the block. We really don't know quite why it happened, but it took a big chunk out the side of the block. Now, how an oil filter can do that, I'd like some advice on it, because it caused us all sorts of issues, and not least of them was that Wayne entered or nearly entered pit lane in reverse. Now, quite a dilemma. Quite a dilemma.
I must say, Bruce, I remember Dick had a problem. Was it same year? I don't know. When they put the humps in the pit lane, and it was an oil cooler.
I think it was an oil cooler. Yeah. So unfortunately,
it might be related. Just
I think
speed bumps.
It was definitely a weak spot. We've got no qualms about releasing that information. Weak spot and takes quite a bit of the block away.
Yeah. A dangerous thing is those oil filters. I got a bad story about the Holden Commodore, but Marshy will tell you about that one day. Tony Marsh, that is. So anyhow, Bathurst trip didn't go too good. The two cars came back. They were pretty straight. Here it is. Benson and Hedges was soon after that. They flew straight back to, flew back. They came up on the boat and the trailer, and made their way to Manfield for another meeting. Then this one here found this on shot. So this is Bay Park, Benson and Hedges.
Yeah, I was going to say that's Bay Park, all right. Yeah.
Great times there, Baz, wasn't it?
Yep, that's us in the background.
I'm sure you're in the embankment there somewhere. But for me, this was pretty cool. This is my very first meeting joining the team. That's me in the overalls there, leaning in, talking to Dad on pole position. There's Wayne in alongside him, and I was the air bottle man.
Okay, yeah.
I was the air bottle man on the team, and for the fueling. So Cosmo was doing the tunes, and I'd put the air bottle in. 86, so I was 14 years old. I don't think Motorsport New Zealand would have taken too kindly to having 14-year-olds on the fuel rig these days.
No.
But that was my initiation into the team, and here it is. Here we'll just play this. So this was the two cars. Bruce and Wayne front row start. Oh, nearly got squeezed by the bimmer, and Bruce gets away. Jacko's in his car. So this is when you only had the three drivers for two cars. So Wayne started in his car and then was coming in early, and Dad was going to go long and hand over to Wayne later on in the race. So Wayne had both bases covered.
Jeez.
How did he get that gig? That sounds like the better deal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's back in the day, of course, the rules said you could do this, and we thought it'd be a bit of fun to have a crack at it, and so we did. But I think the benefits of going to Australia and all the prep we did, and a lot of drama involved, but all the prep we did showed up when we came back, because both these cars were capable of qualifying on the front row of the grid, and they did that reasonably comfortably, dare I say it. Things moved on a bit after that, but I've got to say they were pretty damn quick in the day.
Yeah, so unfortunately the 32 car failed, and you saw Bruce there walking back to explain to the team. Wayne went on to win the race with John Morton. This is the following 6 hour at Pookie. And, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to that to jump so fast. Just picking up on some of the people that have had the privilege of driving alongside you there, Bruce.
Well, I think it's the other way around, Andrew. It was a privilege to invite a few of these guys who I'd just held in such high esteem, and welcoming on board Leo Leonard, Robbie Fransvik, and one or two others was really a privilege, and what lovely people to be with and meet up with. Struan Robertson there on the right hand side, who we mentioned earlier before, and yeah, look, just great time, great people.
So we saw it in the first show that we did. We talked and we showed some of the old classic B&H at Pukekohe, and Robbie was running there. And who would have thought all these years later, he was the then Australian Touring Car Champion, 86 Australian Touring Car Champion, getting to drive alongside each other again. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, sure was. And Robbie had connections out west. He'd raced many cars and done a lot of stuff in those days, but he had a connection with the west. Dalmatians, of course, were making some pretty good wine back in the day, and still do. And Robbie sort of knew of us, and we'd met him at race meetings in various places. And
love that.
yeah, he was kind enough to come on board, and yeah, we had a great time.
So we can see here the Nissan Mobile on the bottom left of the shot there gives it away. This is the following meeting at Pookie.
Yes.
Ronnie Richards right there in the middle. Look at that for a character from Australia. Carl Mack there in the red shirt on the right, and yep, there's me poking my head in.
But
But
there's the shirt.
there you go, Baz.
Bring it out again.
Bring it out again, mate. There it is.
Yeah.
That's the one.
We never throw anything away here.
No, and they're not going to throw us away either. So, yep. Again, I brought this photo up because I just wanted to highlight for those who might not know much about the golden days of Group A. You're somewhere in there, Baz. I'm not sure where, but there's a spot on the hill, and
the crowd. That's beautiful, isn't it? That's the way it should be.
Yeah, that's pretty special back in the day. It brought everybody out, and you can see the two cars here, the 32, and then behind the white BMW, you can see the other Struan Robinson car. So Struan, who missed out after the initial rollover the year before, was called up to have a drive, and he features in our driver's roll call. So that's pretty cool, and we have bumped into him a little bit.
Sorry, Tony Rutherford would be in there somewhere, not far, wouldn't he?
Yeah, so he bought the cars after the team finished with them. So yeah, he ended up acquiring Abe's Babe. We'll get to that shortly, just to round off.
I just thought he might have been in the background somewhere there.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, he would have been in one of the Toyotas somewhere, more than likely.
Yeah.
And here it is again. This is the previous photo was January 87, and this was the October or November 87 post Bathurst, and this was the World Touring Car Championship round at Wellington, and I recall you mentioning, Bruce, about trying to make the cut-off. This one was one that was a bit of a stressful qualifying day, wasn't it?
Yes, well, the Walkinshaw Jaguars, of course, they were world class, and talk about throwing tyres at cars. From memory, they had a full container load of tyres for 2 cars. Now, crikeys, if we had more than 6 or 8 tyres, I'd be surprised. But they had a container load of them, and they just kept going quicker and quicker, and that was the hardest job we had. That 105%. In fact, I think they may have, for the World Championship, cut that back to 103%.
Yeah, so
I know
the
it wasn't
80,
a lot.
this was 87, so you're up against the Texaco Sierras this year. So that was the challenge, was to try and get to the Texaco Sierras, and yeah, they kept. No sooner did you both get under the qualifying time, they'd bolt some new tyres on, and a gun would hop in, Klaas Ludwig or Needswitz.
Yeah, they all had funny names, those guys.
Yeah.
They had funny back names.
And but we made the cut. So that was extra special. We got in the show, so hats off to you. And I'm sure it was all about the air bottle man in the back of the car, but we won't talk about him.
Well, it was. Yeah, I think everybody played a great role in supporting the car, and the other thing about it, of course, it was as close as we were going to get to the Olympics. A World Touring Car Championship race in New Zealand was obviously something unheard of. We were there, we were part of it. We managed to place, I think, 11th or 12th or something like that. So
yeah.
At that point in time, we had bragging rights for that place, even though it was down the field a bit. And in some ways, it might have been as good as the Mustangs did it in that sort of category.
Yeah, no.
I must say we had bragging rights in the up in the mountain too, on the grass, and that with the crowd for the World Touring Car Series, and we were just up there in our t-shirts and shorts, and cheering it all on. So what a magnificent time it was.
It sure was. I mean, it was the pinnacle. So that's Abe's Babe. Barry touched on it before. By now, the second car had been on-sold. Abe's Babe. This was, I think, the last race meeting you two did in it before selling it, if I'm correct, Dad.
Yeah, that's right. The turbo era, as you mentioned, the Sierras in particular had come along, and we decided that the cost of getting into turbo technology was a bit beyond us, and at that stage we decided to move away from Group A.
So you mentioned our good friend of the show, Tony Rutherford. He bought that car. And I apologise because he thinks that I crewed with him, and I probably did, but I can't recall. It's that long ago. He drove it and campaigned it, but it moved down to the South Island, and in latter years we were around the NZV8 era. Came across them in Timaru, if you recall. One night, Dad, we went and looked at the black car in a shed somewhere in the back of Timaru, and there she was, but. Just to not finish on a bad note of Abe's, it did actually fall into a very good set of hands, and that was a fellow West Aucklander, Brett Madron, and he took a liking to the car from back in the day and acquired it. Now I've borrowed some of his photos, so Brett, a shout out to you, mate. Don't send me to the lawyers. I'm giving you the plug. It's your photos. This is it as he acquired it after racing down in the South Island for a little while. And I'll just go back here, bring cameras on, because Barry's got something he wants to add in through the Tony Rutherford era.
Just a bit, yeah. Tony was kind enough to donate to the bar some overalls from the Pinepac history.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Through the team, I think it's got Bean Veen, I think it was. Might have been.
Yeah. Yeah, Veen was one of the refuelers because he's about 6'7", so he could reach over into the boot when it was on the air jacks
Yeah.
and get the fuel rig,
Yeah, that's
get the fuel churn in.
that explains why I don't fit them so well.
So
but
age
yeah,
made it.
so thanks Tony Rutherford for
No, he'll appreciate that. He's a good friend of the show, friend of the
yeah.
team. So Brett bought the car, sent it up to Ken Hopper's new workshop up in West Auckland, and give it the once over. It doesn't look much there, but this is the original car. So Brett then embarked on a major restoration to take it back to its prime. And if it wasn't for someone like Brett, and I dread to think where this car may have ended up. So it's pretty special that Brett chose your car, Dad, to sort of rebirth and get up and running.
Yeah, the Madron family I'd known for some years, and Brett in particular, of course, we got to know with the motor racing connection after that. But they were a local timber company, timber merchant, and they're well known to us. But yeah, Brett did a particularly nice job of restoring that car back to its former glory, and then of course took it to Australia, and you've probably got some gaps to fill in there.
Yeah, so I think he acquired it around 2005. So the gap from 97 to 2005, pretty short really. It's not that long, 8 years. It's spent a bit of time in the South Island, and then Brett did take it to Aussie. So we're going to go. Jesus, car's gone back to Australia. So here she is, freshly restored after testing in the previous photo in New Zealand. Taken back to Australia, and if I'm correct, this is Lakeside. I think it's Lakeside.
So
It might be
Lakeside
Queensland
or
Raceway. No,
Brisbane.
sorry, it might be Queensland Raceway. But Brett will probably correct me on that. So there she is, back in her full glory, 1985 Bathurst livery, the Radiata Pine Mustang. Anderson Betterboard on the front, Union Shipping, pretty iconic Motorcraft logo, and back in the what Ken Hopper affectionately calls her as the RPM car, Radiata Pine Mustang. So that's pretty special, and like I say, it's very cool that the car found an appropriate home to live out her casual years.
Phillip Island. Phillip Island there.
Yeah. So Brett got one. This is the other car. So this is the black car. So this is it's running around in its 86 livery when it ran as a T car. So this was Donnelly, who acquired the other car, and he embarked on getting it restored, and it ended up in Australia as well. So they both ended up there. And here they are lined up together. This was at the Muscle Car Masters at Eastern Creek.
Sydney Motorsport, wouldn't it? Yeah, Sydney Motorsport.
Sydney Motorsport Park, yep. So that's pretty timely because that's where the supercars are heading shortly. So it's on cue. I'm talking about that.
Hopefully.
So yeah, this was 2007, and then lo and behold, this critter turned up.
Who's that?
Who's that bugger? He thought, shit, if I put a shirt on, maybe this guy might actually let me get near this car. So
that was a pretty special moment to meet up with both those cars at Eastern Creek, as it was known, and they were both in great shape. And thanks to the boys, I managed to get into Donnelly's car and run that round for a few laps and demo, of course. Not sure you were supposed to pass anybody, but there was a few people got past, and here with Brett Madron, sitting in his car and getting the feel of it all again.
So yeah, hats off.
Actually, can I just ask? Like, you jumped in the car, but it's pretty difficult nowadays to jump in the car and just do some laps. Even on a parade day, was it so easy to jump in the car, or? You had to
Oh,
sign a
look,
form,
it's
or
no, we seem to circumvent just about all that stuff, and I remember going to one of the officials and asking him what I needed to go and do those laps, and he said, you ever driven the thing before? I said, well, yeah, I did. And he said, that'll do. He said, get in there and get going. He said, just
Good
don't
work.
pass anybody.
Yeah, so I think I remember they try and encourage at the Muscle Car Masters to get many of the original fossils, I mean drivers, into the cars.
Yeah.
And
Careful.
yeah, so Bruce got to drive, as he said, here he is in the Donnelly black, what we know as the black car. So got to drive this in 87, and the previous photo there is with good mate Brett Madron. And yeah, hats off to the two of them, to Ken Hopper for getting involved in restoring these cars back to period look. Yeah, it was really quite special for the team, and certainly for me personally, to know that they didn't fall foul to a junkyard. Now,
They're in a good home.
oh, here we go. I had this all lined up, so I've given him the big plug. Here he is, Ken Hopper. Built them back in the day. We kept him so busy with the cars back in the day. He got to rebuild them again. He even restored one of the Dick Johnson Green Stuff cars. So credit to
That's
him,
right.
his skill, and his just absolutely hats off to Ken for getting that done. And yeah, special moment to be able to relive some laps in the car. 87. So you'd last. Oh, this was 2007. 20 years later, Wellington 87 to 2007. So yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, the memory of the cars really came to life out on the track, even though they were only just demo laps. I remember them being very precise under brakes, cornering. Everything it felt like a race car. And none of the characteristics of a saloon as such, just nice, rigid little car, doing what it's supposed to do, stopping, turning. And the only thing they lacked back in the days, and Dick would tell you this too, is that we were probably short of 40 or 50 horsepower compared with Commodores of the era. And that was all that was lacking, and that was just development.
I was about to ask Bruce. Sorry, Bruce. What was the horsepower rating out of those? Like 400.
Oh, look, ringing wet. I think you might have seen 390. I don't think Dick even saw 400. I mean, had we got the 420 or more that the Commodores had in the day, hey, we'd have been not only alongside them but in front of them most of the time. So yeah, the 400 was a stretch. They might have on a good day, ringing wet, done it, but generally, you were around that 370, 380.
Yeah. So comparison wise, I mean, I know this is where I started to get a little bit, overlaying what they were back then to what we went through with my era with the NZV8s, and 430 dripping wet is what we had in our car. So, I look back at these and think they were rocket ships compared to what we were driving just a few years ago, and yet, how technology moves on. Now, one of the other cool things that happened, and we saw the link with the Seaton connection with this car, and Brett Madron had Glenn Seaton drive this car in Australia a few times after it was restored. So that was kind of cool that Glenn got to get back in the car that he drove when Bruce first bought it back in the day. So that was a very, very cool connection. But there's this for me. This is the photo of the night. This one. It's got to go close to the photo of the night.
That's a bit further than Australia, that photo, isn't it?
No, this is this is Eastern Creek, but we've got.
We've got
Glenn Seaton there.
It's Bo Seaton, Glenn
Seaton.
Yeah, geez, look at that.
Yeah, Bruce and Brett Madron, the car owner. So Brett, the current owner, Bruce, the previous owner, a few before, and then the connection to the car being built back in the day and tested by young Glenn. And boy, he looks quite young and sprightly there.
He still does.
He's never changed. I mean, they used to call him the assassin, and he had that smile on his face even when he was on your exhaust pipe. So great credit to Glenn and his dad. What they've done with motor racing in Australia. Glenn in particular, always a smile on his face. Lovely bloke.
And unfortunately, Glenn is one of those ones that was so close to winning that Bathurst at times, and the Falcon, and Valve Springs, whatever it was, let him down, and you'd see his father Bo, the tears, the emotion coming out, and rightly so. But unlucky.
So moving on, some of these photos, all of them could be the photo of the night, but this is another pretty cool one. So 2009, Bruce, you got to take your current Mustang across the ditch, and we organised for a photo shoot with Brett Madron and Abe's Babe, who we still owned at the time. And there's the two Pinepac Mustangs, and that there, folks, is the first time that the two cars were pictured together. So they never have had a chance to be together before that. So that was pretty special.
Look, a cool place to go and drive at. Made special, with meeting up with that car and Brent again. Look, Eastern Creek's a special track to drive on. Everybody says that it was built for motorbikes, but I can tell you, without any fear or favour, that that's a great track to drive on. Great challenge for the driver. It's got all the twists and turns and undulations and blind brows and just all the stuff that you really enjoy. So you're very happy to have taken the Mustang there.
Yeah, and never miss an opportunity for a photo. So got to drag the team in there and get a photo with the two cars. So there's Mum, Judith front, obviously me sneaking in there. The big tall guy in the red shirt, Jeff Young and Vicky, have done a lot for the team and helped us out. Cousin Ross, we saw him talking about the potato farm before, and he's probably still watching while playing babysitter to his newborn and giving Gina a much deserved rest. And then Philip Pratt on the end in the other black shirt. So shout out to those guys for helping us out, and that's pretty cool to have that in the album.
Good team shot.
Reunited with the car. So look, boy, we've broken a record. We're over what we were last week, but we're nearing the end. Some of the cool things that this car's got to relive is, look at that. We saw it photographed before in front of that green car coming through the dipper. Now it's still ahead of it in the pit lane.
Yeah.
What's up, Dick?
Yeah, I think Dick might have opened that boot up too.
Yeah. So those are the cars. The green car is the other one that Ken Hopper had restored. So that's pretty cool that those cars are reunited. Now we're going to jump forward here a little bit, and we started off with an American car coming to New Zealand, spending time in Aussie, backwards and forwards. But Abe's Babe. One of the coolest things is that it's carrying on its world tour, if you like, Dad. Here it is in Monza, of all places.
Yeah, well, of course, the origins of the Group O Mustangs was Germany, and Zach Speed were commissioned, for those who can remember this. Zach Speed were commissioned by Ford to build a couple of cars, which eventually ended up in Dick's hands. So Europe was the origin of the Mustang, even though it was a North American car, obviously. And but Ford's initial attempt at Group A. Yeah,
so doing a timeline stamp here. I don't know exactly how long Brett owned it, but the previous photo in the pit garage, I believe, was 2014. This is now 2015. It's made its way to Europe, and this French speed connection is its home in France. Benjamin Proton, if I get the name correct, is the driver, and this is him at Monza, and he arrived on the scene and did quite well. A few teething problems with the car, but it was always on pace and out the front, and it was good to see. And if I get through my photos, here it is here in the pit lane. Still running period livery that runs in the Peter Auto's Heritage Touring cars. So I think they're allowed up to 1985, 85, 86. So there's a couple of Volvo turbos in there, but not the real whiz-bango RS500s. And it manages to hold its own in there. So that's where Abe's has ended up. Oh, there's a crash happening in Barry's bar.
Yep.
I hope he's all right. You all good there,
That's all
mate?
good.
Okay.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah.
Good,
I was
sorry.
getting a bit parched.
So there's Abe's, and not to be outdone, the black car has followed, as it seemingly has done most of its life. It followed not long after Donnelly in Australia. It also got acquired and moved over to Europe, but this time it made it to Great Britain with David Huxley out of Surrey. He took a liking to seeing, I guess, and we're going to talk to him on the show here in a week or two. He took a liking to the Mustang and went and acquired one, and they have to be original cars, so that means you've got to go and find an original car, and here we go. This was an original car. So he's been running it, and check that out. A Pinepac Mustang at Spa.
That's it's you don't see that very often.
No, that's pretty cool. To think that these cars are living the life on these world famous circuits, and for those of you who don't know, and I'll get to it shortly, but Spa is the track that Bruce McLaren won his first Grand Prix on, and one of the only two people to have won a Grand Prix in a car bearing his name. The other one is Brabham. So Bruce McLaren, Spa.
Yeah, it's a special place, Spa, and I have managed to walk a lap and also do a few hot laps, which Andrew might touch on.
Yeah, so we jump forward.
Cue.
Right on cue, Dad. You didn't even need an intro. So the previous photo, 2016. This was 2017. Mum and Dad went on a trip, and I had to go over to a conference, which just so happened to be the week after the Spa Classic. So it would be rude not to, and we certainly didn't miss out the opportunity to go. Mum's not in the photo because she's taking the photo. Look at us with our trainers. Gosh, seems to be a common theme. Look at those choice boots. Yeah, so here we are standing behind. I'm just trying to get my bearings. This is on the outfield.
This is the old pit lane.
Yeah, but this is on the opposite side. This is on the outfield. So pit lane is on the other side of the track on the far right-hand side. So yeah, we're on the outfield, but not mistaking. I mean, Bathurst has got some iconic corners, Dad, but I mean, what was your impression going in that GT3 Porsche down on Rouge and climbing the Rillion, which is that corner up behind us there?
Well, it's nothing less than a thrill, and I do have to say that on the second lap, I started to give a few hand signals to the driver, who was probably one of Europe's most experienced Porsche drivers, unbeknownst to me, of course. And however, I was indicating that he should be on a different part of the track, and we had an interesting conversation on the two-way. And he said, no, he said, you can't bloody go that way. He said, it just doesn't work. And but yeah, look, this is the one that the old Grand Prix drivers used to tell lies about. And the thing was, they all reckon they could go there flat. It's a downhill, slightly right-handed, turns into a left and then a right and climbs the hill. And it is something special. It's one of those corners that possibly on the right day without the tailwind, you'd get through there flat. But most other days, I think you've got to come off a bit.
Yeah, it looks like if I zoom in on the photo, old mate here didn't manage to get through there flat. Someone's put some licorice strips all the way up into the barrier. But yeah, that was, I think, if I'm correct, and someone can Google it, it's about 24 metres elevation gain from the bottom at En Rouge to the Rillion at the top. The apex to apex is 24 metres vertically in height gain. So, yeah, that's pretty impressive. So, we've jumped forward. We see the cars are in action and living their life in Europe. We were, I must say, extremely well hosted by David Huxley here. This is him on screen, sharing some commentary on the car with Dad. And I mean, as a host, yeah, we were stunned. He was an exceptional character, an exceptional team to welcome us in to the pit garage for the weekend.
Yeah, the other interesting thing was that the Volvo team just to the right there, they had a bit of drama during the weekend, and they had a gearbox problem. Now the Getrag gearbox was familiar to me, and so they had a couple of gearboxes on the ground, and they were going to change the linkages over and fit this gearbox into the Volvo. And anyway, I got a piece of wood. There was a piece of wood laying on the ground there, probably just about where my left, so my right elbow is. A piece of wood there. And one thing about timber people, they're really innovative. And I said, I think this isn't going to fit. I said, the input shaft's different. And they're looking at me and they said, how the hell do you know that? And I said, well, I had a feeling that they were different because we got caught with a similar thing back with the Mustang days. And they said, well, how did you measure it? And I showed them the piece of wood, but they said, that's not a ruler. I said, well, it does everything that a ruler needs to do. And I said, it won't fit. Anyway, there was a bit of a to and froing with mechanics. And but anyway, they agreed in the finish that it wasn't going to fit. And they did something about getting another gearbox.
Yeah, no, yeah, hats off to you. I mean, we were there, and that's exactly 100% true. And David Huxley has the car maintained and run by Moto Historics. And oh, look, that's another a huge story there just in itself. They work on the Group C Silk Cut Jags, Formula One cars from the day, and we'll get to Barry's suit update here shortly. But yeah, they credit to your dad. They were just stunned. You know, hey, geez, you guys obviously did build these cars because you knew all about the intricacies and the problems. And all these years later, they're still bumping into the same things. So that's David, and I have reached out to him because there was a little bit of a rumor that he might have been wanting to part with the car, and he's toying with the idea. He's got a lot of cars, and we're going to get him on the show, and he can tell us about that. So to round out, here's some of the team that we got to spend the weekend with, and just when you think you've got all the connections covered, there's another interesting one here as well. We've got David here on the front, myself. Sorry, I forget the guy's name behind. I think it's Glenn. Mum and Dad on the other side, and the gentleman who's co-drives with David, is none other than Nigel Greensall. Now, for those who are following at home, and there's 10 of you online listening, so I know you're there. Nigel has a connection with my old teammate Andy Booth. Andy Booth raced Formula Parma Audis in Europe against him. So they were competitors, and we sat down one dinner and had a great chat about it. And yeah, lo and behold, Andy Booth and him were competitors back in the day. So yeah, all this time, the car's gone all that way to the other side of the world, and it's bumped into somebody who's driving it. And Nigel, he races 200 days a year. He's a professional driver. He drives alongside passionate drivers like David, and yeah, having a connection all the way back to Andy Booth here in New Zealand. Real small place.
There you go.
Now, Baz, I can't enlarge your
Yeah.
photo. You're here. You've. I had you paused for a while. I thought you were needing to take a refreshment stop, but
I did that as well.
you've gone and excelled on us, mate. You got full period correct attire. So
Yep. The if I was working on the car, this is what I'd be wearing.
yeah. So yeah, very good.
Remember these, Bruce? These.
Not that particular size, Bez.
Not that particular size. Yeah. So anyhow, look,
Stop
that's about all I have, because this is going downhill, I suspect, from here. That's all I have in my collection tonight. I hope we haven't. Well, we're nearly going 2 hours. But anyhow, people can fast forward and rewind and pick up on the interesting stuff. But yeah, just wanted to touch on those of you who a little bit of the history of the Group A cars, the Mustangs, and what's really cool is that we can't finish the show really on these cars because it hasn't finished. They're still living the dream on the racetrack. So the history of these cars is continuing. So yeah, we'll touch him with David in a week or two, and he's going to give us an update of where it's been, what it's doing, what his plans are for the coming season, and yeah, they just they keep living on, Baz, but like us.
Yeah, that'll be a cool chat.
Yeah, it will be. So, Dad, you've got something here. Oh, here we go.
All right.
We'll go back. I tell you what, we'll right on cue. We'll go back to the lobby because I can get a slightly bigger screen. There we go.
That.
Yeah. So I think
this shot's Surfer's Paradise, and
yes.
For those into detail, you'll see that there is a Commodore behind. Now, how do I know there's a Commodore behind? Well, that's where we try to keep them, but there is
exactly.
It may not be quite clear enough, but there's an aerial, the second aerial on the roof of the Mustang, and that's the Commodore tucked in behind.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Take it on good authority. There's a Holden behind him. You can see the rearview mirror out the left-hand side there of the photo, back corner, gives it away.
Stuck in the draft.
I mean, we could get you to pan around with your camera, Dad, just before we close the show, and pick up on some of the Group A car photos that are on the wall. I know some gifts in the past that you've been given feature them as well, so it is pretty cool. Oh, Baz, you forgot. What was the cue?
Right, mate.
I gave you a cue.
But we already talked about that.
We talked about that, yeah. So we'll get to it shortly in case Ralph is watching. There's a clue.
Yes. So the geez.
Yep,
model.
We'll get there.
Yeah, shit.
Look at those 351 GT. There's the HO. The Falcons up there. Yep. So got a good collection. A few mirrors. I mean, I've got the mirrors in the background, just round corner around there. But Dad, this one's I gotta bring them into shot. Last week I forgot to show the viewers my my XE. Check that out.
Yeah,
oh, that's pretty special. It's not going to Dad's cave. That's staying with me. Yeah. Dad's going on the full tour, but if he comes back on camera, you don't want to show all of it. Geez, look at it. Yeah, it keeps going. Bar.
I'm putting a True Blue up for 40th 40 years.
40 years.
The win.
Yeah, 40 years of Dick Johnson. There's a
True
memory
Blue.
of Bruce's founder's photo that I was looking for, and there it is. The Fox body Mustang. Oh, there's the broken engine. He's actually got the front crankshaft from that '86 Bathurst explosion in the man cave or in his bar. But if we get Dad back on camera, are you there, Bruce?
Come on,
Right.
Bruce.
Oh,
Come
yeah,
in,
there he
Bruce.
is. So, yep, just to go with
We've-
my
we've done the,
Mustang.
that's right.
Thanks
Sorry.
for that tour. I see that. Beautiful.
Yeah. So I get I'm trying to work in reverse on camera. So again, my good mate Greg Ralph, this is where my model collection started. Fox body Mustang, full radiator pine livery. There we go. Bathurst, 1985. That's very cool. This is one of
Yes.
two in existence. The other one was commissioned by my good friend, who I'm just going to go grab my shirt. My good friend Michael Painter, who I went and drove with.
Oh, yes, yes.
So I got to race the Fox body. It's not the yellow one, but I've raced the Fox body. So that's pretty cool. And
That's good.
yeah, there's a rumor that maybe one day I might build a replica. Maybe. There's a small rumor.
Seems like a good plan. You know, it's a long while to get one of these things to birthing stage. So the plan's in place.
Yeah. So it has.
Shout out to the painters. The good group, good guys, eh?
Well, I believe they might have a certain Fox body sitting at Moselle Panel and Paint this very day. So stay tuned. So Ian Pledges says hello. Nice one, Baz. We'll just give him a quick shout out. Peter H. Van is he's been with us through the whole duration. So oh yeah.
One of our
Peter's raised an interesting topic, and we'll get to this when we talk about muscle cars. But all I need to say is Dad in the red Camaro, me in the Mustang, and the dinner after that Wings and Wheels meeting. That Sunday night dinner was pretty tense. But well, thanks for bringing that up, Peter. We'll get to that. Look, that's.
Can I just shout out to a couple of birthdays? AC, Craig Darwick, Shadow's brother.
Yeah.
The Darwicks in Australia on the coast.
No, you can't. You can't do that.
Okay, I've done that now. And Nicky Davison, Digger's partner, Nick. Happy birthday to you guys.
Very good. All right, well, maybe they're one of the 11 people that have gone on and off and watched us, and they're like, "Are you still there talking, you silly buggers?" But anyhow, we lost Bruce right on cue, so unfortunately his connection's dropped.
Back.
Oh no, he's back. He's back. So anyhow, thanks guys.
Battery's going flat.
Oh, well, just right on cue then. So we made it through. It's top of the hour, 9 o'clock local time. Go back, replay, watch, snip the highlights. It's great to give people a bit of an insight into the Group A Mustangs that Dad and Wayne did with a lot of help. The Ken Hoppers, the Barry Clarks, Chris Gangleys, all those guys that helped back in the day, put those on track, and we'll keep you updated with what they're doing because they're still doing it. And so anyhow, that's enough for me. Any final comments, Bruce?
Can I just say before Bruce,
correspondence will be entered into.
I just want to say, Bruce and Andrew, can we get Jacko and Bruce together on that side by side? There'll be some stories. There'll be some fun coming up in the next show. Maybe not next show. Let's.
Well, that's a very good segue into it because after the Group A Mustangs, there was a bit of a pause, and then we got back into the brother rivalry. One went the Chevrolet General Motors direction, and Bruce stayed true to the Ford. So I think it's only fitting I need to try and drag Jacko down and get a little bit of right of reply.
Yeah, Bander's good.
Bander's good.
Well, we can bring him into the man cave because we can just open the doors, and that must qualify as an indoor-outdoor function. And we won't be breaking any rules. I mean, it just seems that you just go ahead and do these things now. But anyway, 10's not a bad number. We'll see what next week brings.
Don't get me started on those numbers up there.
Very good. Well, on that note, thank you guys. It's been fun going through the photos, having a chat. good chatting, and we'll catch up with you again next week probably.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, cheers. All good.